Well, hello there, everybody. It is Dr. Siobhan here, coming to you live for another live stream. So this is part two. We are picking up the conversation we started a couple of days ago with this question of who are you? Like, who are you? Did you think about it? Do you have some answers? If you do, I would love, love, love to hear them. And if you find that you're still struggling with this question, like many of us do, I wanted to just provide a little bit of perspective and insight into why that may be. Why, if I were to ask you, who are you, you may struggle with finding an answer. And there's no judgment, there's no criticism, there's no condemnation, but I just want you to think about that. Like, what's going on? Like, right? That's sort of how some people respond to that question of who are you, right? It's very easy to describe ourselves in terms of our labels, but not in terms of who we really are, like our true character. So I thought I would come on and just, shed a little bit of light, at least from my perspective, of why we have a hard time answering that question. So the first part of this live stream was knowing why, being able to answer the question of who am I, why that is so important. And it's so important because when you don't truly know who you are, you don't actually ever live the life that you were supposed to live, right? You sort of live beneath what God has sort of set aside from you, because you don't really recognize your true power. You don't really recognize your purpose and your calling and the things that you're supposed to do. And so you spin your wheels a lot of time, maybe making mistakes, maybe living in regret, because you don't have a confident assurance in who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. So why does that happen, right? That's what this live stream is about, answering that question. Like, why is it difficult for us to sometimes really understand and know who we are, to be able to answer that question with ease? And I have some notes, right? If you've been following me, you know I got my notes sometimes, because I get a little bit chatty on these live streams and I forget my points. But I want to make sure that this is valuable and that I stay on point. So I do have notes. So the first reason, and I can't say that all of them are in any particular order, but I do think that this a lot of times is at the foundation of everything else. At least it was my experience and the experience of a lot of people that I have the opportunity to work with and help through these questions. And the first reason is you're disconnected from God, right? And so many of the people that I come across and many of the people that I coach and work with, they consider themselves Christians. They go to church. They may be involved in ministry and doing the work of religion, but that intimate, connected, deeply, abiding relationship with God is missing a little bit. That the busyness of their life doesn't really allow them the space and the time to truly connect with and commune with God, right? There's a little bit of a difference between praying, which many of us do all the time. That's sort of like a one-way direction conversation with God, where maybe you're thanking Him, you're praising Him, you're worshiping Him, and then you're asking Him for something. But we don't often sit in silence to hear from God, to actually commune with Him, to be in His presence. And when you're not able to do that, right, whether it's life is busy or you don't really know how to quiet your mind to do it, or you just, don't have the motivation to do it sometimes, which is true, right? Sometimes you don't. You're so stressed out, you're so overwhelmed, you're so sad, you're so down about things, that really motivating yourself to get into His presence is a hard thing to do. But I will assure you that the further and further you step away from that intimate connection and that relationship with God, the less clear you're going to be about who you are, right? He is the source of your life. He is your creator. And so developing a strong connection with Him is one of the quickest ways to be able to truly answer this question of who am I? Because after all, he has the answers, right? And he will reveal that to you. He's already revealed it to you in his word, but he will reveal that to you in many other more tangible ways in your life when you're connected to him, when you know his voice, when you can actually hear from him. So that's point number one of why it's so hard for us to answer this question of who am I? Because we've lost a little bit of that connection with God. Number two is we live our lives so many times based on the expectations of others. That growing up, right, our parents expected us to go into particular fields of study, or our parents expected us to develop certain skills and certain talents, and you know, our other extended family, our teachers, our educators, you know, our friends, our peers. We have like all these circles of influence around us that create and set up these expectations for our lives based on who they think we are, which really a lot of times people's perception of you is more a function of them than you, the dreams that they maybe didn't fulfill in their lives. And so now they impose them on you, the expectations that they didn't meet for themselves that now they've placed on you. And we succumb to that, right? We could succumb to society's expectations of us based on our gender, our age, our ethnicity. Like we mold ourselves into this picture, right? We mold ourselves into this picture, this portrait, this snapshot of us that we didn't create. And we operate in that space just going along thinking that that's who we're supposed to be, thinking that that's how we're supposed to talk and what we're supposed to do and who we're supposed to become and who we're supposed to present to the world. And we get so busy, we brainwash ourselves based on the expectations of others that we lose sight of, we lose connection with who we truly want to be. And so that's point number two for why it's so hard to answer this question, because no one's ever really asked you, right? Like your parents didn't really ask you, you know, society hasn't really asked you. They just define something, they put you in a box, give you a label, and there you are. And we walk around like, you know, puppets and robots trying to fit into these expectations, these norms that other people have created that a lot of times just don't suit us, right? So that's point number two. Point number three for why it's so hard for us to answer this question of who am I is because we've actually placed some boxes and some limits and some labels on ourselves as well, right? So when I talk with women and I ask this question, the two most common answers are I'm a mother and I'm a wife. Okay, like yes, I'm a mother and I'm a wife too, but there's so much more to you, right? There's so much more to you than the label of your role. There's so much more to you than the label of your profession. But because that's what we do, those are the tasks of our day, the tasks of our life, we allow those things to become who we think we are. And we create these little confining boxes of ourselves based on our role, based on our relationship to others, rather than based on our relationship to ourselves and based on our relationship with God, right? So we've created these labels, right? Rather than creating and being the designer and the architect of how we show up and who we are. So that's point number three. And let me make sure. Yes, point number three. Point number four is we can't answer this question of who we are because so much of the time we are focused on what we have to do versus who we want to be. So when you wake up in the morning, what are the first things on your mind? I know for me, there was a lot of years and months where it was, okay, I got to do this. I got to get up and do this. Like, I can't sleep in because I have to do this. And if I don't get up and do this, then I can't do that. And then if I can't do that, then I won't be able to do this. And then I'll get behind in this, and I'll get behind in that. And then I'll get so stressed out and so overwhelmed and yada, 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 right? Craziness, craziness. The amount of time and energy and effort and mental space that is occupied by our to-do lists. And one of the principles that I teach, one of the principles that I really believe in is being intentional about who you are. I talk a lot about this in my group, Happily Married Woman, because it's really one of the tenets of being a happily married woman, or a happy woman in any aspect of your life, is being able to choose how you show up, being able to choose who you're going to be. And so in the morning, I've gotten into the habit now of deciding, like, what are the qualities that I'm going to embody today, right? The to-do list is going to be there. The, tasks and responsibilities and things that I must get done will always be there. But I have the choice of which version of Siobhan shows up to do those things. And so one of the ones that I practice all the time, and I'm not perfect at it, I'm still working on it actively, is patience. Is being patient. And so when you wake up in the morning and you set the intention of being patient, right, then you're in control of who you are. And if I were to ask you a question of who you are on that day, you might say, I am patient. Like, could you try that on, just like you would try on your shirt in the closet? Like, go and pick out an admirable quality or an admirable trait, admirable trait about yourself, right? I am patient, I am understanding, I am forgiving. And you can be that person. So we don't do that, right? And we can't answer that question because when we open our eyes in the morning, the first thing we're thinking about are all the things we have to do. We live our lives based on what we have to do, not on who we want to be. So that's point number 4. And then point number 5, I think, sums up a lot of these. One of the other reasons that we have a hard time answering this question of who am I is because you don't recognize that you actually have a choice, right? And again, it's the result of fitting into the box that other people have created for you, living up to the expectations of others, that you really care what they think about you. And I hear so often from so many women, like, well, that's just the way I am. Like, that's how I was brought up. That's how I was raised. That's how I've always been. Okay, right? Okay. I grew up a certain way. I thought I had to be a certain way. I thought I had to do certain things. But what if I don't? Like, what if I get to choose, right? What if I get to choose who I am, how I am, and how I show up? Have you ever considered that? That, like, you actually have a choice in the matter, and you can reinvent yourself at any time. Anytime you choose, you can reinvent yourself. And it may take people a while to recognize the new you. It may mean shutting off some friends that keep boxing you in, some relationships that keep bringing you down. But you can absolutely spread your wings and fly, right? Fly, butterfly, isn't that Mariah Carey's song? You can absolutely do that. Like, you have the choice in who you are and how you show up. And when you realize that, right, then answering this question of who am I, it's like a blank canvas, right? You don't have to base your answer on the history of who you've always been, but you can now base your answer on the future of who you are becoming. So I just want to leave you with that, right? 5 reasons why it's so hard to answer this question. 1, you have disconnected from your creator in some way, shape, or form. Yes, you may be going through the motions of being a Christian. You may be going through the motions of your religion, but do you really have an intimate connection with God where you commune with him, right? So that's number 1. Number 2 is you live your life based on the expectations of others. Talks a lot about that. Number 3 is you then even box yourself in based on your role, right? I'm a mother, I'm a wife, And that's all you see yourself as. Number 4 was you're too focused on what you have to do versus who you want to be. And then point number 5 was you don't even know that you have a choice. Never even occurred to you, right? You're defining yourself, or you're trying to define yourself based on your history, based on who you've always been, rather than who you are becoming. And so I am patient. I'm kind, right? We know that verse. Love is patient, love is kind, love is understanding, does not boast, right? So you have the choice. All of that to say you have the choice. So what are you choosing? Who are you choosing to be? Who do you want to become? I would love to know, right? And don't make it harder than it has to be. There's something that comes automatically to your mind, to your gut, to your spirit, to your soul. That's what you need to go with. So I have loved having this conversation about who am I, who are you, who am I, who are we, right? And this is part 2. There is a part 3 where I'm going to give you some steps to actually figuring it out, right? So the first part was about why this is an important question to be able to answer, like why you must be able to answer it. Part 2 today was about why it's hard to answer it. And then part 3 is going to be how to get through the steps of actually answering. And I'm really excited to share that with you. It'll probably be Friday, so definitely make sure your notification's on, you look out for me. I will look to share that with you on Friday. Now, as I said in my first live stream on this topic, like it's fine to have these conversations, but I also want to equip you, right? My role as a coach is to empower, to encourage, and to equip you. And I am like over the moon excited, like a kid on Christmas morning, about the experience that I have created to help us all answer this question with confidence and with courage of who we are, and to live a life free of being fearful, worried, anxious, that we can just be our authentic selves, that we know who that authentic self is, and that we can live that life for ourselves. And so next week, I'm going to be sharing all of the details about this amazing, amazing experience. But if you're like me, even though I'm supposed to be practicing patience, sometimes I'm like, just give me a hint. Like, just tell me the details. Like, I gotta know what you're talking about. If you can't wait till next week, drop me a comment in this video, or send me a private message, or send a pigeon some kind of way. Raise your hand and let me know, Siobhan, tell me now. Like, tell me now. Like, you can tell everybody else next week, but I gotta know right now what you got, because I need to get this together, right? It's already October. It's almost the end of 2017. Like, I cannot go another year not being able to answer this question. If that is you, if you're one of those people that, you know, like to know the juicy gossip and all the tea before it's spilled to everyone else, then I'm here for you, because I'm a little bit like that too. So all you have to do, again, just drop me a comment in this video, tell me now, send me an email, send me a direct message here on Facebook, Messenger, whatever. Just say, tell me now, Siobhan, and I will give you all of the secret details that everyone else will get next week. All right. So thank you for tuning in. If you found this valuable, share this broadcast, right? We are all struggling to find an answer to this question, who am I? Who are you? Right? And you never know who might be scrolling through Facebook, stuck on this question and not even knowing why they are stuck. And maybe just having one of these answers that I've shared today can help them move forward. So sharing is caring, right? Thank you again for being here. Thank you for tuning in. And I will be back with you for part 3 with the steps to uncovering who you really are. I'll see you then. Have a good night.